am founding director of the oral history project called Spelman's Independent Scholars. And the focus of our research is the intersection of race, gender, class as seen through the lens of age. So we went to Memphis and Birmingham during a time, this was a celebration of Martin Luther King. And so where should you go for those stories? You go to Memphis and you go to Birmingham. Well, I wanted the students to understand why this project is critical in the 21st century. I wanted them to understand that we really cannot move forward informed unless we have some quality time with people who live in the present, but who were born many, many decades ago, the critical decades in our nation's history. We spoke to Mr. Leach, who was one of the demonstrators during the I Am a Man during the 60s with Dr. King. He's an amazing man.
We're all pretty familiar with the sanitation workers strike, but we're wondering what exactly made you decide to protest?
For the union? Mm-hmm. Baby, I ain't know about no union. What customer ain't know about a union? The only thing that when I went to see, same folks got me my job, same folks fired me. That's the best thing they ever did. I went and got card to sign people up. They said, let me get fired for something. I got fired for nothing. Let me get fired to help my fellow men and my family. And that's why I did. I stood up to be a man, not no boy. I stood up. I wouldn't, if I had sat down, what I want to do? I'm like I said, nah, I ain't doing that now. If I stand up, be a man, I'm a man. That stood up for my family. And full of men was out there with me. That's what I did.
We have a political, a moral, a religious, an intellectual, an academic, a theoretical obligation to give voice and visibility to elders. Not just voice, but also visibility. Because the surest way to disempower any group of people is to deny them voice, but also to deny them visibility. And that is what we were doing. We were giving them voice and visibility. And that is what we do in the project.
Something that I would really like to know from you. What specifically would you like people to know about your legacy?
My legacy, I just want people to know that she did what she could to help everybody. And I'm not just one of those people that's just going to help one person, because when I speak of the NAACP, it is for people of color. It is not just for African Americans, I mean people of color. You have Latinos that come in, they're suffering from the same things that we're suffering from, Jewish people, everybody has an issue. So when someone comes into that office and wants to file a complaint, I sit down and I listen to them. So I just want to say, hey, she did what she could to help everybody.
What we wanted to know, since they were products of the Atlanta University Center and had achieved, what was their reading, or what is their reading of today's activism?
We've talked about the importance of community, and one thing I've learned from my experience about being an activist is being an agent of change within your community. Now, being an activist is about using your platform, your intellect, the tools that you have, your agency to create sustainable, positive, and effective change within your community. How do you feel, or describe to me what does you using your agency look like in your daily life?
Let me back up. I've always been an activist. From, I recall in high school when they were going to change the process for us to get our courses. I was one of the people that led the effort to the school board. No, we want what we want. I got to Spelman and Morehouse, and I'm not Morehouse. I got to Spelman, and that continued. When I got out and decided to be a lawyer, I was very, very, very committed to juvenile justice and education. So I always had my foot, always an activist.
There's a critical mass of black folk that are never going to see the inside of a college. What do we do in terms of providing them with the information that we think that they should have? Also, what does it mean in terms of learning from the wisdom that, for instance, poor and working class black folk have cultivated on their own when it comes to thinking about liberation, thinking about advancement, thinking about the expansion of freedom for black people, right? Because that's the other thing we have to caution on. That's the other thing we have to be careful about, right? This idea that, you know, that the educated folk are the only ones who can craft something forward, right? The only ones who can sort of move us forward when it comes to, right, this blueprint for liberation. That hasn't always been true. It's never actually completely true, right? So, you know, so when it comes to thinking about the knowledge of liberation, that knowledge can be derived from a bunch of places. And when it comes to sort of the exchange of information with regard to liberation, we got to think like the liberators do. Right?
So when you conduct interviews, what you're doing is rescuing from oblivion stories that the elder narrators don't know that they have until they share them with you. That's the so exciting thing.
I want you to take me back home. What was it like growing up in Memphis?
Been so long, I've forgotten. Well, I had a good life. I came from a family of, it was 10 of us, and I'm the 10th. I had the sister ahead of me that always tell me what to do, and it was wrong. We had fun, and I went, you know, fellowship and friendship with school friends, and it was a good life. I enjoyed it.
What about your other siblings?
Everybody's gone but me. Everybody's dead.
So you oftentimes did hair for women. Did you ever do any women's hair that were in the movement? And what I mean by movement, as far as riots or with the civil rights movement?
We did Martin Luther King's wife.
Wow.
Can you tell us about
There was a meeting, you know how they came there for meetings, and we did her head one time. But we did, I had a beautiful business, and we did people.
How was that experience?
It was exciting. That was an exciting time in Memphis. They would hold meetings. My business was across the street from where a lot of the civil rights meetings were held. And I guess with my name up there, and she saw it was a beauty shop, she came across the street. It was just across the street from where she was attending a meeting.
Do you remember that experience?
I'll remember it as long as I live. And you would have too.
So how do you, in an interview, say things? Yeah, give me an example.
We want to thank you for sharing your time and your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. You all are just wonderful.
My name is Monique, and I want to thank you for bringing this experience to life for me. Being an older student from Spelman and growing up during the time of the Civil Rights Movement, I've heard so many of the stories that happened, but I was a small child. So being here in your presence and hearing you make that statement that was on that sign in the photo that I grew up looking at that said, "I am a man," brought this home for me. So thank you for sharing your experience.
So we journey south to stories. It is demanding, it is different, the pedagogy is somewhat revolutionary. So this was really the best kind of lab experience they could have had. And at the same time, they were learning history. At the same time, they were celebrating Martin.